My name is Emily Rivers. I'm 28 years old now, a school counselor living in Columbus, Ohio. But no degree, no job title, no smiling Facebook photo can erase what happened to me between the ages of 7 and 13. Because for those 6 years, I wasn't a daughter. I was a prisoner in my own home. And the woman who caged me called herself my mother. She wasn't my mother, of course. My real mom died when I was 6. She had leukemia. One day, she was reading me bedtime stories. The next, she was gone. My dad remarried less than a year later. That's when she came in. Tall, thin, blonde. Looked like a woman out of a catalog. Her name was Miranda. But I never called her that. She made it very clear from the beginning. I was to call her Mom. At her wedding to my father, she smiled at me and whispered, "You and I are going to be best friends." I believed her. That night, she slapped me for accidentally dropping a glass of water. No one saw. No one heard. And when I told my dad the next morning, he laughed. "She's just trying to help you grow up, Em," he said. "She's not your mom. She's your teacher now, too." He was traveling for work most of the week. I was alone with her. Every single day. When I turned 8, I stopped trying to tell anyone. Brief pause. Tone drops lower. I haven't spoken about this in years. But what makes this story worth telling is not what happened to me. It's what happened because of me. Or more specifically, because of her daughter. See, Miranda had a baby a year after marrying my dad. A little girl named Lila. Back then, she was too young to know anything. Just a baby in a crib while I cleaned the floors. I used to sneak her cookies when Miranda wasn't looking. I used to whisper stories to her in the dark when she cried. She didn't say much then. But 15 years later, she found me. And what she said, it took me right back to the nightmare I spent my whole life escaping. "She's hurting me now, Emily, just like she hurt you." I swore I would never go near that house again. But when I saw the bruises on her little arms, I knew I had to go back. Not for revenge. Not for justice. But for the girl who reminded me of the child I used to be. And this time, I wasn't going back as a victim. Before Miranda came into our lives, things were soft. Not perfect, but soft. My mom used to tuck me in every night with a lullaby. She had a voice like cinnamon and sugar, warm, gentle, sweet. Even when she was sick, she smiled. Even when she was losing her hair, she held mine and said, "I'm not scared to go, Emmy. I'm scared to leave you." She passed away in her sleep. I remember waking up to my dad sobbing in the hallway. For months after, he couldn't look at me without crying. He stayed home from work. Let me eat cereal for dinner. We slept in the living room with old movies playing till 3 a.m. It wasn't stable, but it felt like we were grieving together, like we were trying to hold each other up. That's what made it hurt even more. When he brought Miranda home, she came into our lives like a smile with teeth. At first, she was perfect. She smelled like vanilla and wore pearls, and had long nails that clicked like tiny knives. She brought me a Barbie the first time we met. I remember thinking, "She's too pretty to be mean." But something about the way she looked at me always made my stomach twist. Too calm. Too cold. She moved in 6 weeks later. They got married 2 months after that. For a while, I convinced myself it would work. She cooked elaborate meals, hosted dinner parties, had a way of charming everyone around her. People loved her. The neighbors adored her. My dad looked at her like she was magic. She always made me smile in front of them. Always told people, Emily's adjusting beautifully. She's such a sweet girl. Behind closed doors, she became something else. The first slap came when I was brushing my teeth. I had left a wet towel on the floor. She didn't yell, didn't scream. She walked in quietly and backhanded me so hard I hit the wall. I remember the blood in my mouth, the minty toothpaste on my tongue, and her voice, low and flat. "You'll learn to be clean, won't you?" The next morning at breakfast, she kissed my forehead in front of my dad. I sat there, shaking, while he talked about taking us on vacation. At school, I started lying. "Oh, I fell off my bike. I hit the door frame. I bruise easily." Nobody pushed. Nobody asked twice. The bruises faded, but the silence grew louder. Then came Lila. When Miranda got pregnant, everything changed. She stopped hitting me for a while. Stopped even looking at me. Her world became pink blankets and tiny shoes and pastel nurseries. She barely spoke to me, except to bark orders. After Lila was born, I thought maybe things would soften. Maybe being a mother to her own child would make her more human, more kind. I was wrong. As Lila grew, Miranda's cruelty returned, but colder this time. Less physical. More calculated. She locked the pantry at night. Refused to let me eat unless I finished chores. Punished me by making me stand in the hallway for hours. One night, I wet myself waiting. She made me mop the floor and sleep without dinner. My dad was out of town, as always. She told him I was acting out, and he believed her. He always did. Still, I loved Lila. Even when she was a baby, I used to sneak into her room at night and sing to her. I'd brush her tiny hair and whisper, "You're safe. I've got you." When she learned to walk, she waddled into my room every morning before Miranda could stop her. I taught her to count, to read, to spell her name. She was my secret joy. Then, when I turned 13, Miranda found a way to make me disappear. She called CPS and claimed I had violent outbursts, said I was unstable, and a danger to the baby. I still remember the two social workers at the front door. I begged them not to leave me with her. I told them about the hits, the starvation, the punishments. But Miranda cried. Told them I was mentally ill and needed help. She even showed them a doctor diary, pages she wrote herself in my handwriting. They believed her. 3 weeks later, I was gone. Placed in a group home 3 counties over. Nobody from my school said goodbye. My dad never visited. Miranda told them not to. That's the last time I saw that house. Until 15 years later, when Lila messaged me. And for the first time in over a decade, I felt 10 years old again. Trapped, afraid, and burning with something I thought I'd buried forever. Rage. Lila's message came out of nowhere. It was a Sunday afternoon. I was at home grading some middle school essays when I heard my phone buzz. The name on the screen stopped me cold. Lila M. My heart dropped. I hadn't heard her name in over a decade. I thought she'd forgotten me, or been made to forget. With shaky fingers, I opened the message. Emily? I think you're my sister. I found this photo. Is this us? Attached was a picture of me at about 10 years old, sitting on the floor in our old living room, holding a baby wrapped in a yellow blanket. My eyes were bruised. My smile, hollow. But I was looking down at her like she was the only good thing in the world. And in that moment, everything came back. The pain, the fear, the silence, and the love. I messaged her back with one word. Yes. She responded instantly. I'm sorry. I know you don't know me, but I need help. We started messaging, then calling. Her voice was soft, a little shaky, a little unsure, but familiar. She told me Miranda never talked about me. Said I ran away, that I was crazy, that I hurt people. But Lila always had a feeling it wasn't true, especially lately, because things at home had started to change. Lila was 16 now, old enough to see the cracks forming in Miranda's porcelain mask. She's angry all the time, she said. She screams at me over dishes, throws things if I forget to text her. Last week, she grabbed my wrist. Hard. I felt my stomach turn. That old, sick feeling. Like I was standing in the same kitchen, holding the same plate, waiting for the slap. I asked her to send me a photo. She hesitated, then said, Please don't be mad. A few seconds later, my phone buzzed again. And there it was. A long, deep bruise just below her elbow. She had tried to hide it with makeup, just like I used to. I was frozen. I hadn't cried in years, not really. But something broke open in my chest. Not just sadness. Not just fear. Guilt. For leaving her. Even if it wasn't my fault. Even if I was a child. I told her, You did the right thing by messaging me. She said, I don't want to go into foster care. That broke me again. Because I knew what that life was like. Rotating homes. Cold food. Kids who stared through you. Feeling like a ghost in someone else's house. I promised her one thing. I won't let what happened to me happen to you. From that day forward, I started watching. Carefully. Quietly. I didn't rush in. Didn't go to the cops yet. Didn't blow it all open. Because if I knew anything, it was this. Miranda was smart. Dangerous. And she knew how to lie better than anyone. If I moved too fast, she erased the evidence. Or worse, hurt Lila beyond repair. So instead, we made a plan. I bought Lila a cheap second phone. One she could keep hidden in her closet. I told her to record everything. Every argument. Every threat. Every manipulation. Especially the ones Miranda delivered with a sweet smile. And Lila, she was brave. Too brave for a 16-year-old. She started saving voicemails. Recording audio when Miranda screamed at her for talking back. Taking pictures of the bruises before they faded. Within 2 weeks, she had enough material to make your blood run cold. There was one night. Lila called me at 2:07 a.m. I was half asleep, but when I saw the screen light up, I answered instantly. She was whispering, barely breathing. She came into my room drunk. Said I was just like her, like you. And then she slapped me. Twice. I locked the door, and she's still outside. She's banging on it. I told her to stay calm. Keep recording. Keep the phone line open. I sat in silence, listening to Miranda's muffled voice on the other side of the wall. Open the door, you ungrateful little freak. I gave you everything. Then a loud bang. Then nothing. I stayed on the line all night. Neither of us slept. By morning, Lila had managed to slip out and go to school like nothing happened. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't just a few bruises. This wasn't just discipline gone too far. This was the same woman. The same monster. Doing it all over again, only this time to the daughter she birthed. And the difference? This time, I was ready. I didn't cry that night. Not after the call. Not when I saw the red marks on Lila's cheek over video chat the next morning. I just stared at her face, at the pain in her eyes, and at the hollow emptiness behind her forced little smile. And then, something inside me changed. I'd spent most of my life trying to escape what Miranda did to me. But in that moment, I stopped running. Because it wasn't just about me anymore. It was about her now. And I wasn't going to let the cycle continue. Lila wasn't a kid who whined or exaggerated. If anything, she downplayed everything. That's what made the next message she sent me hit so hard. It was a voicemail Miranda left her. A sweet, sing-songy voice, almost like a lullaby. You don't understand what I've sacrificed for you. I gave up everything. And if you end up like her, like that broken little brat who ruined this family, I swear to God, I'll make sure you regret it. There was a pause. Then, you think she suffered? You don't even know what suffering is yet. I played it 3 times. Each time, something inside me hardened. I thought about calling the police, but I knew better. I tried that route once, at 13, and it got me labeled unstable. Miranda knew how to twist things. She knew the language. She knew how to look like the victim. I needed more than emotion. I needed undeniable proof. I needed to take her down the right way. That night, I started building the folder. I created a hidden drive. I labeled it Lila's Safety Plan. Inside, I uploaded screenshots of bruises, audio files of verbal abuse, transcripts of threatening voicemails, pictures of old documents proving I lived with her before CPS took me, my own therapy records from my teenage years, notes that referenced childhood trauma, and the full voicemail where Miranda admitted she knew what she did to me. Because she wasn't just cruel. She was proud of it. I sat in front of my laptop till 3 a.m. Didn't eat. Didn't blink. And when I closed the folder that night, I knew. I wasn't the scared little girl in that locked basement anymore. I was a grown woman. With a plan. And this time, she wouldn't see it coming. Most people think revenge looks loud. Screaming. Confrontation. Explosions. But the most dangerous kind of revenge is the kind that walks in quietly. Smiling. That's the kind I was planning. The next morning, I drove to a small law office 2 towns over. Pro bono. Women-led. Specializing in child protection and domestic violence. I met with a woman named Marla Grant. She didn't ask me to prove my trauma. She just listened. And then she leaned forward and said, "If you can give me what you've told me you have, we can make this a full custody case. Maybe even a criminal one." That was the first time I felt something close to hope. Lila and I made rules. No emotional texts. Nothing that could be read or forwarded. She started using coded phrases. Dinner was rough equals verbal abuse. Mom's in a mood equals possible physical threat. I'm going to bed early equals she was locking herself in her room. She'd leave her second phone in recording mode during tense evenings. Every few days, I'd receive files. Clips of shouting. Threats. Manipulations twisted into motherly concern. I cataloged everything. Date, time, context. Then came the day I asked Lila to wear a mic. It wasn't easy. She was nervous. Shaking. But she agreed. That night, Miranda exploded because Lila forgot to take the trash out. What followed was a tirade so vile. Even I, who lived through it, felt cold listening. You want to be like her? Go find her. See if she wants another broken brat ruining her life. I should have left you in that hospital. She said this to her own daughter. And it was all on tape. 2 days later, I went back to Marla's office. She didn't say a word for 5 minutes. Just listened to the audio. When it ended, she looked up and said, "We're done collecting. Let's go file the emergency petition." We worked fast. Filed for temporary custody, based on emotional abuse, psychological trauma, and risk of escalation. Used my history as context, my therapy records, CPS case file, and most importantly, Miranda's own voice, comparing what she was doing now to what she did then. It was airtight. But we needed one last thing. To catch Miranda in real time, in front of a neutral adult. So we planted the final trap. The school Lila attended had a guidance counselor. Sweet woman named Mrs. Kelsey. We asked Lila to request a meeting with her, in front of Miranda. When Miranda dropped her off that morning, Lila told her she'd be speaking with that nosy counselor again. Exactly as planned. Miranda stormed into the school office during the meeting. The principal was there. So was Mrs. Kelsey. Lila had left her second phone recording in her pocket. Miranda walked in smiling, then exploded. "I'm sick of you filling her head with lies. You're not her therapist. You don't know what happens in my house. This is why girls like her end up like her sister. Maybe I should have left them both." That was it. That was the moment she sealed her own fate. In front of witnesses. With audio. In a public school. The next morning, Miranda received a court summons. She laughed. Called it a joke. 2 days later, a sheriff served her with a protective order. She wasn't allowed within 200 feet of Lila until the hearing. She didn't laugh after that. And when the final court date came, I sat behind my lawyer in the courtroom. Lila beside me, holding my hand. Miranda walked in with flawless makeup, perfect heels, fake smile. But none of it mattered. Because when the judge hit play on that final audio clip, the courtroom went dead silent. Her voice, her rage, her threats, played for the entire room. When it ended, the judge leaned forward and said, "Miss Rivers, is this the same woman from your childhood case?" I nodded. He turned to Miranda. "You've abused 2 generations of daughters. You will not get a third chance." The courtroom was small. Wooden benches. Cold air. No cameras. No crowd. Just quiet justice. But for me and Lila, it felt like the biggest stage in the world. Miranda walked in like she owned the room. Perfect suit. Pearl necklace. Confident smirk. She looked around like this was a school PTA meeting. I watched her eyes flicker the moment she saw me. I hadn't seen her in person in 15 years. And she hadn't aged much, not physically. But there was something hollow behind her smile. Like she'd used up everything good she ever had, and was now just pretending to be a person. She tried to say something to Lila as we passed her table. Lila didn't even look at her. That's when Miranda's face changed. Just for a second. Like she knew, deep down, the walls were closing in. Our attorney spoke first. Laid out the timeline. Explained the history of abuse. The therapy records. The recordings. The witnesses. The CPS files that had been reopened. Then, the judge asked, "Does the petitioner have supporting media?" Marla nodded. "Yes, Your Honor. Multiple files. But one in particular sums it up." She hit play. Miranda's voice filled the courtroom. "You think she suffered? You don't even know what suffering is yet." Silence. "Maybe I should have left you in that hospital." Silence. "You're just like her. A broken little brat who ruined this family." Still silence. And then came the whisper that sealed it. "You'll learn what real pain is. I promise. Miranda didn't move, didn't blink, didn't even look at the judge. The room stayed frozen for what felt like a full minute. Then the judge spoke, calm, slow, deliberate. Effective immediately, Lila Rivers is to be placed in the full custody of her biological half-sister, Emily Rivers. Miranda Collins, you are subject to a permanent restraining order, no contact, no visitation. Additionally, this court is forwarding evidence to the district attorney's office for formal charges of child endangerment and abuse. Miranda's lawyer stood flustered. Your Honor, my client disputes the... But Miranda cut him off. This is ridiculous. They're manipulating this girl. She's mine. The judge raised a hand. One more outburst, and you'll be removed from this courtroom. Miranda sat down slowly. The smirk was gone. The pearls looked tighter. Her skin was pale. Lila didn't smile. She didn't cry. She just exhaled and leaned her head gently against my shoulder. That one small movement was more powerful than any scream could have been. After the hearing, we walked outside. There were no news vans, no applause, just a cloudy Ohio sky, and the quiet sound of justice being done. Lila looked up at me and asked, Do we go home now? I nodded. Yeah, our home. A week later, Miranda was officially charged. 3 counts of child abuse, 2 of child endangerment, 1 of obstruction of justice. Her mugshot was public within 24 hours. And for the first time, she was the one being judged. Not me. Not Lila. Her. We never went back to that house. We didn't need to. Because the house didn't win. We did. It's been 14 months since the court ruling. Since Miranda lost everything she used to control us. Since Lila and I began our new life. Together, not as sisters by blood, but as survivors by choice. Our home now isn't huge. It's not in a fancy neighborhood. It has creaky stairs, mismatched plates, and furniture we found secondhand. But there's laughter in the kitchen, music playing softly at night, and silence that feels safe, not threatening. Lila's room is filled with her paintings, bright, chaotic, bold. She's been in therapy for a year. She still flinches sometimes when someone raises their voice. But she's healing. She has friends now. She started volunteering with an animal shelter. And last week, she told me she wants to study psychology. So I can help girls like us, she said. As for me, I still have scars. Memories I wish I could delete. I still wake up from nightmares sometimes. Still freeze when I hear a certain tone in someone's voice. But I'm not running anymore. I'm facing the past, not to relive it, but to reclaim it. I've started speaking at local schools about childhood trauma, helping counselors recognize the signs. Because I'll be damned if another girl walks through life invisible like I did. Sometimes, I drive past that old neighborhood, the one where the big white house stood like a castle filled with secrets. It's for sale now. Miranda lost everything, her job, her reputation, her control. She's still awaiting sentencing. The charges stuck. And you know what? I don't feel joy in that. Not really. What I feel is release. Like something that lived inside me finally exhaled. I think about my mom sometimes. What she would have said. What she would have done if she'd lived. I hope she knows. Her little girl didn't stay broken. She didn't stay silent. She survived. And more importantly, she helped another girl survive too. She took my childhood. She took my family. She tried to take my voice. But in the end, she didn't take my soul. and from that one unbreakable piece, I rebuilt everything, not for her, not for revenge, but for us.